Alright, so these are just some additional examples of AC factoring if you felt you needed to see a few more in order to catch on to what we're doing. It is the most complicated, I think, of factoring methods and the one that takes the most practice to master. So these are just going to be 3 additional examples of using this method to factor an expression. So again, if you notice in these 2 that you can see here, in both cases there's a number in the x squared spot, and we're not able to remove that number in any way. We can't use GCF to pull away and turn the x squared into a 1. So we're going to have to use this AC factoring method. So I'm going to come off to the side and say, okay, my AC, remember, it means A times C, and in this case that would be 2 times -3. That's -6. My B value is in the middle. Remember that negative x is really like -1x, so my B is -1. So my job is to find a pair of numbers that multiply to -6 and add up to -1, and in this case they would be -3 and +2. Right? If you check that out, add those together, you get -1, and when you multiply those together, you do get -6. So again, this pair of numbers is going to be used in order to split up the middle term. So instead of writing -1, I'm going to say, well, -3 plus 2 is the same as -1. So I can say -3x plus 2x minus 3. Okay? And I'm going to go through now and use the grouping method on these 4 terms. So I'm going to group the first group and say, well, it looks like the only thing they have in common is an x. Right? Then 2 and 3 only have a 1 in common, so just x. And I'm going to say that leaves me with 2x minus 3. Okay? And my second group, again, I'm not seeing anything in common. We do have to pull away a 1, so we have something to pair up with this x on the outside. But it doesn't change anything on the inside, and that's good. I don't want to change anything. I want these 2x minus 3s to match. So now I'm going to regroup. X plus 1, that's my GCF numbers, and 2x minus 3, which is that repeating factor from each of the groups. Right? So I would say the 2 factors of 2x squared minus 3x, 2x squared minus x minus 3 are these 2 factors down here. And again, if you want to check this, multiply them back together. Do the double distributing, and you'll see that when you multiply these 2 together, you do get this original expression that we started with. Okay, so let's take a look at a second example. All right, so I have this 6 here, so I'm going to go to AC factoring. So I'm going to say AC in this case is 6 times 5, that's 30. Okay, and I have a 13 in the B spot, so I need to find a pair of numbers that multiplies to 30 and adds up to 13. Well, 3 times 10, 3 plus 10, it looks like I want to use 3 and 10. Okay, so again, use that to split up 13. 3 plus 10 gives me 13, so I'm allowed to write 6x squared plus 3x plus 10x plus 5. Right? So because 3x and 10x is going to give me that 13 back, so this means the exact same thing. I'm going to use my grouping method now. Okay, so I'm going to group together these 2, and it looks like they have 3x in common. And I can say there's 2x plus 1 behind. And again, if you're ever unsure about this, just multiply it back in. 3x times 2x does give me this. 3x times 1 does give me the 3x back. And the same thing with the second group. I see a 5 in both of those numbers. And luckily, I do get that 2x plus 1 again. So now I'm going to regroup. Looks like I'm left with 3x plus 5 from the GCFs on the outside, and the repeating 2x plus 1 on the inside. So I would say there are my 2 factors. Okay, one more example. Right, and in this example, something kind of different happens. Right, so I'm going to say my AC is a pretty big number. It's -140. Right, and my B value is 31. So it can be a little bit difficult to figure out factors of 140, right? And so you can come off to the side and try to list them, or we might be able to use a calculator to help us out. So I'm going to pause the video, bring up my graphing calculator, and we're going to use that. A little trick on the graphing calculator that can help you with some of these big numbers. Okay, so I brought up my graphing calculator here because, again, we said the problem was that -140 is a kind of a bigger number, and it's a lot more difficult to think of all of the factors that could multiply together and give you 140 and try to figure out how that fits in with 31. All right, so if you have the graphing calculator, then there's a nice little trick you can use in order to bring up a list of those factors really easily. All right, if you turn on your calculator and you go up to this button at the top, the y equals button, and you press that, You can clear out anything. I have a clear button over here. Right? And what you're going to type in is whatever number you're trying to factor. In this case, 140 is the number that we're trying to factor. If you divide that by x, right? So we're basically saying, like, if you were to do this by hand, you'd say 140 divided by 2. Okay, well, that goes with 70. 140 divided by 10. Well, that goes with 14. Right? And you'd be doing that by hand. We're asking the calculator to do that for us by just doing 140 divided by x means any number. Okay, so if I go to hit my second button, right, you can see the little up arrow means I hit my second button, and then I hit the graph button above that is table. It's going to bring me up a list of all of the factors of 140, right? So you can see that, for example, 2 and 70 are factors, or -2 and -70, right? 2 and 70, 1 and 40, and any of these ones with decimals like 3 and 46.6, that's not a factor, right? So we're going to look for a pair of numbers that adds or subtracts to 31, right? So if I'm looking down the list, we'll start off at 0, okay? All right, 0 doesn't work, okay? And we're going to say, well, 1 and 40, no, they don't add or subtract to 31. 2 and 70 doesn't work. 4 and 35, well, what about that? 35 minus 4 does give me 31. That's the pair of numbers that I want. All right, so again, thinking about this, you can see there's a ton of them. There's 5 and 28, 7 and 20, 10's hiding down here. And so when you get to these bigger numbers, having the graphing calculator and using this little trick will save you some time looking for those factors. All right, so I'm going to use 4 and 35, and now I just need to figure out how do I attach a negative sign to make that a -140. Well, it looks like I'm going to attach it onto the 4 because I need the sum to stay positive, right? So I'm going to say in this case, let's do -4 and +35. Okay, -4 and +35 are the two numbers that I want. All right, so I can double check, multiply those together. I do get -140. Add these together, I do get +31, right? So again, getting back to the AC factoring, now that we've taken the time to find those numbers, they are going to be used to split up 31. So I'm going to say 10y squared minus 4y plus 35y minus 14. Okay, so I need to look at the first group. Well, the first group is 10y squared and minus 4y. And I'm going to say it looks like they have 2 in common, and it looks like they also have a y in common. So I'm going to bring out a 2y. And that leaves me with 5y minus 2. Right? Here's my second group. Right? And it looks like 35 and 14 have a 7 in common. So I'm going to say +7. And that also leaves me with a 5y minus 2, which again, that's good. I need that to happen. 5y minus 2 in both parentheses. And now I can regroup. 2y plus 7. 5y minus 2. These are my two factors. Okay, so again, you got a nice little calculator trick to help you out there if you're having difficulty figuring out factors. Going to the graphing calculator, going into your y equals, typing in that number you want to factor, and you're going to be able to use that to help you go to your second table and take a look at your list.